Fragile. It must be Italian.
Well, I think that says fragile, honey.
Oh, yeah.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and between televisions, headphones, game consoles, lighting systems, and toys for the kids, where do I spend my money on electronics? We've got your Black Friday tech covered because today we welcome CNET's woman who's focused on the future of your favorite gadgets, Bridget Carey. In our headlines, why are interest rates not falling? We'll share some answers, plus dive into why people just aren't moving, forcing home prices higher. And of course, I'll also be here right when you need me to share some delectable trivia. And now, two guys who already have their bibs on and are waiting at the Thanksgiving table. It's Joe and G.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the I Have the Stuffing to myself. Well, I got to share the stuffing with Doug podcast.
Not with OG. I'll take his portion.
It is our pre-Thanksgiving episode. And you're right, we got the bibs on and we are ready to podcast. We got to get this thing done because it's time to get the pre-party started for the big meal tomorrow. OG, have you stretched out? Are you ready to go? I feel like you're like Joey Chestnut, ready to do a number on the Thanksgiving feast tomorrow.
Do you guys help with Thanksgiving dinner, or is this like solely your spouses? Or so you run into this scenario where it's like you've been cooking all day and you're like, yeah, I'm good. That clearly doesn't happen to you guys.
No, I'm usually drunk, but I'm not full.
Okay. This year for the first time, the family is catering, so we are having Thanksgiving supplied by Bob Evans.
So not a scoreboard.
Beep, beep, beep. Taking back the scoreboard.
Bob Evans is legit. What are you talking about?
No, it's going to be great.
No, I'm sure it's going to taste incredible, but it's not like he's getting catered by the Four Seasons.
No.
He's just probably saying Bob Evans so that we don't feel bad.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the Four Seasons.
See, anyway.
No,
we forced it out of
the
him.
Four Seasons of Texarkana.
No, of Brighton, Michigan.
Just a little different brand with a Z. It's Four Seasons with a Z. It's on the Arkansas side, which makes it even more interesting.
Can you imagine getting food from the Four Seasons and throw it in the microwave to heat it up?
The Five Seasons, not at all affiliated with the Four Seasons Hotel.
Well, maybe a little asterisk afterwards on the sign. Yeah, we've got a great show today because you might need a convection oven to put that turkey in. And you know what? Bridget Carey's got it all taken care of. Yeah, that's the one that does it really fast, Doug. Doug's like, I don't know what you're talking about. That
slow
speeds
roast,
up. Speeds up the cooking adventure. We're going to have some fun with Bridget as we do every year. This might be a little like Robert Niles, who kicks off the summer for us, talking about theme parks. How many years in a row? Bridget, maybe this might be her seventh appearance, eighth appearance something for like Bridget. Yeah. Can't wait. I know she's upstairs talking to Mom. She's got a list a mile long of things that she's going to dive into. OG, what's on your electronics list this year? Maybe some new headphones. Maybe
you don't like my headphones?
Lighting package. I'm just saying there's always the new thing. What's the hot thing?
Chemical peel?
Tanning bed?
Facelift? Dermabrasion? Tech thing. I may be a little late to the game, literally, but I feel like I'd be pretty good with a Nintendo Switch. Really? I could play a little Mario Kart or something. I don't know. I play enough on my phone. I don't know that I need another distraction. I went on Instagram for the first time in 4 years the other day. And like literally I went to like look at one thing and it took 25 minutes to look at that one thing because it was like a never ending. It doesn't end. Oh. There is no end of Instagram. Yeah, I don't need to do that.
I don't know what deals Bridget has. We're about to find out together what deals Bridget has. But
I'll take a Nintendo Switch if there's a good deal.
Well, I do know, OG, when she was talking about like what the big deals are, she mentioned Nintendo Switch.
Well, there you go.
I know she's going to talk about Apple products. because she's been the person at CNET following them closely lately. So if you're interested in that, I know there's some hullabaloo around the Switch. I don't know what it is, but she goes, I got some news about Nintendo Switch this year. We'll see what that is.
Hullabaloo.
Hullabaloo. All the hullabaloo.
Whoa.
And Tigger too? Oh.
She's throwing it all out. Doug, what's on your tech wish list?
There's a new version of a device I use for skiing called Carve. And it is a highly sensitive motion metric device that figures out what your ski angles are and can teach you how to be a better skier and how to carve better. And so
Totally, dude.
I'm looking for version 2. Version 1 was incredible. The amount of data it gives you and how accurate it was. And version 2 is just that much better.
Well, let's see if we can ask her about Carve as well. You know, when you say it's highly sensitive, does that mean it starts crying if you don't take its advice?
It does. Yeah, it does. When you get on the lift and it's talking to you and like you haven't listened to it in the last 5 runs, it's like, what am I doing wrong? How do I get through to you?
Version 2, even more sensitivity. We got a great show for you today. Bridget Carey is here. We've got a fantastic headline. Why aren't interest rates going down? We're going to serve that one up to OG to answer. We've got a couple publications talking about that and talking about people not moving as a result of interest rates not coming down. What does all that mean for your money? Also a TikTok minute. But before all that, we've got some sponsors that make sure this show's free so that we can keep on keeping on and you don't have to pay for it. So let's hear from them. And we're going to dive into CNET's Woman of Mystery. I don't know if she's a woman of mystery. If you haven't followed Bridget Carey before on social media, you need to start doing that, because whether it's her amazing YouTube channel, her TikTok presence, she's always trying out all the new toys, no matter what area of technology we're looking at. And just like Regina Conway brought it on Monday, every year, Bridget tells us what we need to avoid. I really enjoy talking to Bridget, especially because she's like, yeah, don't fall in that trap. Too many people get sucked into technology that's really not worth the money. So we're going to save you some money. Hopefully, make sure you buy the right stuff. Bridget Carey up right after the break. We'll hear from our sponsors and then we'll hear from Bridget. So let's go. Oh my goodness, is she back in the basement already? It feels like she was here 2 weeks ago, but it's been a year since Bridget Carey was here. How are you?
Hey, Joe. It's good to be back. I've been busy, but it's been quite a year, but I'm doing good.
Yeah, well, I'm jealous because I follow you on TikTok, and I saw yesterday you were at a certain ship that was in some harbor in Manhattan. Tell us about this nondescript ship that looks like every other ship and sounds like every other ship, and you know.
Well, if anyone has been in New York recently and just saw the giant Disney cruise ship just parked right on the water there, plop there. Yeah, Disney just christened the ship. They invited media to come on board to quickly check it all out. The first voyage is in December, so they're going to be sending that back to Florida. But yeah, when you do a tour of a ship in one day, it is just go, 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 quick, see all the cool things. You have 10 minutes in each room. And here I am as a tech reporter going, oh my gosh, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? Let me just capture it all. And I'm like, I walk out kind of overwhelmed. But yeah, there's a lot of cool things, including a Haunted Mansion bar.
But I got to imagine the kid in you, especially in that Haunted Mansion bar, which looked amazing. And we'll link to your TikTok presence so that people can see this themselves. I mean, the kid in you's got to be, wait, I want to stay. I want to stay in this place, please.
The entire lobby when you walk in is Aladdin. I felt like I walked into Aladdin and Jasmine's like palace. There's mosaic, there's statues. It's like, okay, the architecture. Okay. Yep. So yes, they know that millennials now have the money and now have the kids. And they're like, oh, you like this as a kid? Great. Come on board. And they're hitting like all the generations. Like there's a Marvel restaurant. And I think they do a good balance of hitting like a lot of people's different fandoms, but it's always even if you don't like a certain movie very well, or you know a lot, there's so much detail and showmanship and performance and everything.
Well, Disney has their magic, but we have the Bridget Carey magic today with us. Let's start off with The Grinch Who Stole the Holidays. I want to dive into the things that you and I talk about every year that people should really watch out for. First of all, one of your messages that I really love, especially when it comes to tech, is These doorbusters that we're starting to see now show up, Bridget, they're not always what you would hope for. So kind of beware the doorbuster a little bit.
I feel like not only do the Black Friday sales start so early that you feel like, wait, is now the time to buy, or do I wait? Or do I wait now? Or how about now? Yeah, I think you have to just go in with different plans. Like the things that are on sale early, if they're small things, go for it. Like, okay, smart light bulbs, sure, small charger things. I'm seeing also larger than normal things on sale earlier and earlier. So if it's a matter of just, you need it anyways, it's not that bad. But the really big ticket items, your televisions, if they're like on sale only for like a quick hot moment, like the old term of doorbuster, when you actually had to bust down the door because there's only like 5 of them in stock. Yeah, I think that's always going to be something that people still go for as long as they have a real big need for a TV. But so many people are now searching online that you can just do it without having that panicky rush of actually having to run to the store anymore. Do you still go to stores, Joe?
It's funny. I was actually in a Walmart a couple days ago, which it's been maybe 9 months, 8-9 months since I've been in a Walmart, and they had tons of employees. They're putting out tons of stuff, but I saw a 42-inch TV for $250. But what you've warned me about in the past is that might not have all the HDMI hookups.
No,
that might not have all the, you know what I mean? Like look at the specs.
Yeah. I mean, with any product, it's like, oh, that sounds like such a good deal. And sometimes it's about age. Like maybe they're just trying to get rid of that inventory. Or also, look at the specs. What is the compatibility back there? Like, does it have just 2 ports? So you're going to be really annoyed because you have, 3 streaming or gaming systems that you want to attach. So you have to kind of take a breath and look at, is that going to have good longevity, that product? Right now, I see people buzzing about how there's an iPad for $200. Oh, can't pass that up, right? iPads aren't. No, you can pass it up. You can let it go on by because it's an iPad 9th generation. So you go, okay, that came out in 2021, but actually the processor chip is older than that from 2019. So yes, it will run your stuff. Like, are you getting something that, needs to play movies for kids on the plane, and have a few enrichment apps? Okay. But then at a certain point with these products, they're not going to get all the updates. So it is a question of how long do you need this device? And maybe it's worth spending a little bit more on something that's newer, or in the case of a TV, making sure you have everything you really want out of it. So you're not feeling like you didn't get the best experience.
Yeah. I'm always behind it, plugging in stuff, unplugging stuff. Like, who's got time for that? You've been covering Apple a ton lately, and I know we're going to talk a lot about Apple products, partly because of that. But I want to dive in first to not just Apple, but everybody. AI, right? I mean, the big sexy thing I feel like this holiday season is I need AI in all my stuff. Why do I need, if I'm the average stacker out there, why do I need AI all around me for? What's AI going to help me with, Bridget?
I'm trying to look at the good side of AI because right now a lot of it is gimmick. And a lot of it is making you, like, especially when you look at the commercials, right? It's all about, hey, don't you feel smarter because it just kind of served you up a whole email essay for you or summed something up for you. And I'm kind of going, it's not quite delivering in the perfect promise because I have had AI turned on and I still have to kind of double check that email to make sure it summarized it right. Or I'm getting it, I don't know if you've used it on the iPhone, but it has like summaries of what your friends text message you or Slack messages at work. And especially if someone hits you with rapid fire. And sometimes it's very robotic. Even loved ones to be like sending a picture of my kid next to the car, working on the car. It's like child with hand in car. And I'm like you click it and you're like, oh, you mean a delightful image of a 5-year-old, like with a thumbs up next to dad. So it actually takes longer for your brain to go, what is that? And it's adding more junk, if I were to describe it, into already a busy lifestyle we have of getting messages a lot. So who is it for? I like to think of it as a tool, much like spell checker can be a tool, but should be used with a light touch. For example, if you are really mad and you're like just banging away at an email, you can ask the AI to like see, is this tone the right tone? And you could say, oh, maybe if I wanted to sound a little bitter, I might use this word or that word. But when you completely take your entire message and change the tone, which I've done before in some examples with Apple, it sounds robotic. It sounds fake. They value the fluffiness of a business sound or like adding too much extra fluff to sound extra friendly with, minus the smiley face at the end of the email. So you have to kind of go, like, we all know how we want to talk, and maybe use it as a tool if you're having trouble expressing yourself for a sentence or two.
I love that idea. Calm this down. Take me out of the heat of the moment, or make it funnier, or like to your point, using AI as an editor for me, for my journey has been great. Using it to ask it to do stuff has been horrible. So why though do I want the new tech? Well, what will new tech give
It's not
me?
fully cooked yet. It's not fully cooked yet. All these companies are trying to sell you on that's why you want to upgrade, because we've hit a point where we're still doing the same apps. Why would you buy a new phone if you could do all the same stuff already? So they're
Right.
trying to show you. I would say there are a few perks that I've had. It's just hard to sell people on the real reason to blow I meant to say $1,000 on a new phone. There is a photo editor tool on the iPhone that can erase a small thing in the photo. And I have a kind of a funny feeling with that being a journalist, because like, how much are we manipulating photos on what was real and what wasn't there? I had a picture of my kid posing with a costume. The back leg of someone in the distance was there. And I'm like, okay, that felt like a good way to use that tool. I'm like, just give her that back leg that someone passing by got caught in my picture. But I could also it's like no different than cropping, I guess.
Yeah.
Either way, there is an ick about it to some people. It's going to be a hard sell, I think, for people to go, oh, yeah, I see the need for it. Eventually, over time, Apple is going to be having more updates and more updates. And that's what they're trying to say. Like, hang on for the ride. We're going to have ways you can make your own emojis and have fun with messages that way. It is something that we'll see more and more of in the next year. But I don't think you have to rush to feel like you're missing out right now. It really comes down to, can it save you time summarizing things? But I still am at a point where I don't always trust the summary to catch everything, and I want to still read it myself.
Yeah, I like reading it myself and having the summary. For me, the more, and it takes me a little more time, but the AI really helps me get at like, okay, what's the point of this thing quicker sometimes. Let's dive into specific products, because this is the fun thing that you and I do every year. It appears to me like you're a pretty big fan of the new iMac, though.
That iMac, it is just so tiny. It's so impressive how tiny it all is and how much you can do with these machines now. So yeah, that one, even our reviewers at CNET and other people I'm seeing, like everyone's really into it. But it's expensive, but it's a powerful machine. I've even seen some people get really creative with what they can do with just this. I mean, this thing is such a small little box. It's not as small as an Apple TV, but it's just 2 inches tall
It is
and
tiny.
5 inches across. You're like, it's shorter than my phone, so.
So I'm plugging in because for some people that haven't been around Apple technology much, like they're like, wait a minute, don't I get I've got a iMac in front of me now that has the screen and everything. It's all built into one, but this is just the little processor, and you plug whatever monitor you want into it and plug your own stuff into it,
I was
right?
thinking the Mac Mini when you said that, because I had that in my mind, but the iMac 2 is the beautiful one. So like, were you talking about like the colorful iMac or the Mac Mini? Because both of them are
that
just
too, but let's stay on the Mac Mini for a
Yeah.
second, because a lot of people don't even know this thing exists. And man, if you don't want to be fully baked into the Apple system, you want to have your own monitor, you have your own keyboard, you got all your own stuff, you just want a new processor, that Mac Mini it is amazing how small that is and how
People
powerful.
are looking at that as like Apple's way of going into gaming, even like what you can do with a computer that's just a very small box.
Cool.
You can get creative in your home and even put it like next to your television and start to do different things with it. Yeah, Apple really made a big push this year with updating all of its computers in different ways. And there's probably going to be more updates even next year, but a lot of emphasis is being put on their new chips because of that AI thing that we're talking about, AI being the driving force for like why you want to upgrade. But the thing is, even if you find a device that has like a slightly older chip, they can still handle AI. You're going to be seeing actually some decent deals for the most part on slightly older computers, if I may, like because Apple and this big push for upgrades, they took their old MacBook Airs and said, from now on, we're having more memory, 16 gigs of RAM instead of 8. Well, guess what? All the retailers right now are going, how do we get rid of this inventory? And there's some pretty good discounts on an M3 MacBook Air. I've seen it for about $800. So yeah, you can get a brand new computer for under $1,000 for a MacBook Air. That's pretty good,
That's
so
really
it's about,
good.
It's about knowing your tech to kind of find the good deals.
Well, and Cheryl, my spouse, just got that deal literally at Best Buy of all places about 10 days ago. And, and she's a light user. So having the 8 versus the 16, not a big deal for her. Like, that's fine.
Right. I think if you're a heavy user of big processing apps, like you already are in the game to know that you want the more memory. But like for a lot of folks who are just doing work, like it's going to be great.
But let's talk about those pretty iMacs, because I have one. Mine has the pretty light green background.
Yeah, they updated the colors even a little bit too, and made them a little more green, a little more pink for this year's models. They all have like even matching keyboards and mice, and everyone's talking about how the Magic Mouse still like charges from underneath, which is a
Yeah,
pain point for some people, but
it is
it
such a pain
it
in the
actually
ass.
charges pretty fast. But yeah, these devices are like little candy color things. I want more color in all my Apple devices. Can we please bring back more color in the other things? Like what if we all had colorful, AirPods?
I know. And what's great about that, it just to some degree, being a guy who's been around computers for a long time, remember those first iMacs that came out that were just so pretty, just the little things on the desk. And now you look at them again and you go, oh, we're back to pretty, which is great, but not truly all that we're worried about with our device. You were talking on one of your videos about the camera is a little different. Like I can take a picture of the stuff that I'm working on in front of me now.
Yeah, that's a cool little trick. So the camera, even if it's pointed at your face, can actually record your hands on the desk. We saw this first kind of come out in the iPhone as a trick. If you had a Mac, that you could like stick your iPhone to like the top of your screen and it could do that. Now they built it into the Mac. And they have other kind of camera tricks too, where it kind of follows you around a little bit. So you're seeing these upgrades kind of roll out to other products, including some iPads. And I like that. I remember for a while, it was kind of hard to do FaceTiming on the iPad because it had to be on the top, but now it's landscape mode. So we're seeing smarter cameras. I think cameras are where people are looking for the advancements. We kind of just want it to have more cool recording tricks. And if you're doing things at home, like being able to make videos where you're explaining how to make something or do something, and to keep that iMac just sitting on your desk while it's recording your hands, how helpful is that?
Can we transition to something that's really helpful? Waking up on time in the morning to go to work. I saw that you had a review of an alarm clock by, is it by Nintendo?
It's by Nintendo. Yes. You know what? The world right now, I think it needs products of weird Nintendo. So hold on to your britches here. It's $100 for an alarm clock, but I will tell you, it does a little bit more than just make a sound. When Nintendo announced this, it's called the Alarmo, because of course it is. The Alarmo was first went on sale for people who were subscribers to their online service, but also it was at the Nintendo store in New York City, and it will be sold in more places starting next year. But this is the first wave. I ran out, got it. I'm a fan of Nintendo games, it's especially Zelda. So I wanted to see what it's all about. It has a motion sensor that is when it's time to wake up, you have to move your body out of bed. And it has a couple different games, but like, let's say you're not getting up out of bed, then you start hearing the boss sounds. But whatever it is, if I have a sound where it's getting me to get up out of bed and I move, it sounds like Link is hitting the bad guys, for example. So it feels like I'm doing the weapon swinging. But if I really stay there too long and I keep hitting snooze, then like the terrible like robot bosses start coming out and gives you like a little panic attack. And it senses when you've actually left the bed. If you actually try to slip back in again, it will start going off again. So it gamifies it. Some people have said you have to keep in mind, oh, it only works with one person, because what if you have a spouse in bed with you and everything like that? No, you can set it to a button mode, so you could turn off the sensor. There's a lot of different features like that. But I think creative products, this is what we need right now. We're kind of seeing the same thing over and over again. Like, yes, bring
Yeah.
back the silly, bring back the fun, goofy stuff.
And to your point, I will pay more for that. Something that just brings a little joy at the beginning of my day. I mean, if I get out of bed with a little more spring in my step and it costs me $100 to do that, I think for me, that's well worth it.
And of course, you want Bowser to wake you up, right?
Yeah, duh. Of course. Who else is going to wake me up, Bridget? You and I, in our email exchange, you also had some words about the Switch, which, oh, gee, my co-host is thinking, he's like, I might get a Switch.
There are some great Black Friday deals, better than usual this year. And if you're following the news, it's probably because you're going, well, because the Switch 2 is said to be coming out soon. But regardless, Nintendo knowing that and announcing that a Switch 2 is coming out, that means that the bundles and the deals are a little better this time around, because not only can you get games on sale, like that part of Black Friday still is going on, but it includes a year now. If you buy a Switch, it includes a year of their online service. And normally they've never done that. So, that's like around a 70 something dollar value. I think if you were a family that was thinking about like, oh, is this the year to get it? If there's a new one coming out, that is something to consider. But I mean, we have an inkling that it seems from the rumors that the games are going to be backwards compatible. So you're not really going to lose out if you get one now. It's not like you got to throw the whole thing away next year and feel like you're outdated. It's going to have a long time of it being useful as a product. So I think it is worth it if you're a family that like hasn't had one yet. Go for it.
Speaking of games, let's just go back to Apple and to your TV, because you found this cool way to hook up your Apple TV to retro games.
Yeah, the Apple TV's changed a little bit because of some rules in the EU, believe it or not. So they've allowed game emulator apps. This is something that I was not in the world of game emulators before. Of course, I played retro games like I was a Sega Genesis kid. Now there's apps that let you go online and you can buy some, older programs of like games you played many years ago off of Steam, the service Steam, or there are other ways to get it that aren't exactly, maybe legal to be frank about it, because people just kind of post the files of the games online. It's like the old Napster days. But I bought a few on Steam on the Valve program. I learned that you could just kind of take those files, dump them in, and suddenly I find myself playing Sonic the Hedgehog and all these old games I used to rent from Blockbuster Video. And it's just there on my TV. And it wasn't that hard. The tutorials were very easy to do that. So yeah, we're coming to an age where you can get pretty creative now because the Apple TV has now opened itself up to emulators. I know there is gaming, of course, on the Apple TV. It already has a menu of games, but I think there is a kind of a sweet spot we have for some of our nostalgic games.
Well, that's so true. I mean, you and I have talked about this before. I have Xbox Game Pass, which is a fantastic service if you're willing to pay for it every year. And I like the fact that I can get all these games and try them out. But I also have this Steam account, and the Steam store always offers a bunch of cool things that I get FOMO about. And I can't believe I can hook up my Steam games to my TV now. That could be dangerous. We might not have a podcast next week, Bridget.
But you know what? I gotta say, I wondered how my like 5 and 8-year-old would react to like original Genesis games. Like, okay, like they've seen the good stuff. Surely they'll be annoyed, and they were into it. So I call it an educational experience. Like bring the old into the home. Because back then, that's when gaming was real. There was no saving.
That's right. Savings for wussies.
You had to go through the whole thing. You had to like let the TV be like on off, and like if you wanted to ever leave and have dinner, let it run.
Let's go back to phones. You kind of rolled your eyes a little bit at the iPhone 16, some of the upgrades there.
Oh, the button, you mean?
Yeah.
This little button on the side?
Yeah, where the kids are getting all grossed out about mom and dad in the commercials. I think everybody's seen.
Oh, and also the like, there's a lot of weird commercials. I think Apple needs to rethink some of their commercial strategies.
I was like, what's the point of this commercial? I don't get it.
I would say when it comes to the button on the side for the iPhone 16s, both the Pro and the entry-level models have this new camera button. I haven't had folks really give me an experience that they love it that much that I interact with, because I came out saying I think it's a pointless button. I wasn't really in love with it because when I'm trying to take a photo, it has pressure sensitivity, and I'm spending more time kind of fussing around with how I'm moving it to zoom in and out or how hard I'm pressing it, when we haven't taken photos just fine, Joe, before with, a little tap on the screen. So there are so many ways to have shortcuts to take a photo quickly. So it felt like a gimmick, and accidentally I've turned it on sometimes because it's touch sensitive. It's not, it is a physical click, but it kind of is, something that also can go off if your phone's already on as a shortcut, and you can turn it off if it ends up annoying you like that. But I have had a few times where I'm like, wait, what's happening? Oh, I hit that button. I haven't been exactly thrilled with it, but when Apple Intelligence starts getting better and better, it's also becoming a shortcut to be able to do something where if you point your phone at an object, it can tell you more about that object. Or you could just ask the person like, oh, let me take a picture of this building, this restaurant, and I can get the menu. Or you could just walk up to the restaurant and get the menu. So maybe I'm reaching the age where it doesn't really impress me all that much. Right. Apple had an example where they're like, take a picture of this dog that this person's walking and tell you what breed it is. I'm like, you could talk to the guy and say, what breed is your dog?
Why would I do that?
Or I could be a creeper. Just take a picture of your dog and not say anything. We have to find a way to bring these cool tech tricks into helping us be more human, not taking us farther apart from society.
Oh, that's great. That is. Hey, I just want to take a picture of you. I don't want to talk to you. I'm taking a picture of your dog.
We don't talk anymore. Summaries will talk for me.
On that front, I think a friend of mine just finally discovered some of the Apple shortcuts. And as you already know, as a tech reporter, and I know they have shortcuts on Google phones as well, like just investing no more money, but invest some time in learning some of the shortcuts your phones have. Holy cow, Bridget, there's a ton on that phone that you're not using.
Oh, and Apple doesn't necessarily bring you an instruction book anymore. So you really
Not
have
at
to
all,
kind of
yeah.
like spend a little time digging. You'll find amazing things. Like there's ways to have shortcuts if you double tap the back, or if you just, want different menus and settings. I think a lot of people, in this new update to the iOS system, they saw their Photos app changed. And a lot of people are out there going, what happened to my photos? Where are my favorites? And it can be frustrating. But there are ways to kind of customize it back. And I hate the fact that we have to kind of do homework to use the product that, we want to get the most out of. But, if you are wondering, why are things taking so long, or why is this hard? Sometimes a quick Google search can, have someone have a video that explains, actually, there's a way to change it. There's a lot of settings under accessibility that I would poke into if you haven't already, that kind of open your eyes to what you can do. It's usually hidden in a few places.
It's so fun. Like my buddy said, JD, he said that juice is worth the squeeze. Like spending just a little bit of time and learning it is worth the squeeze, because now he's a ninja with his phone. Let's end on, well, I got one for younger kids. I saw a video of a lizard climbing the wall. Is that a great gift for young kids, or is that just a gimmicky another thing?
Okay. It's not even for kids. Kids at heart. Okay.
Back away on your kids, Joe.
I would say this, that there are a few really cool techie toys we're seeing this year. I think parents are looking for things to not have another screen in front of their face. Like we all are looking for something that gives them a little bit of creativity in a different way. What we're referring to is this wall crawling gecko that on its belly has a tiny little, like almost vacuum like suction. So it sucks to the wall. It works on drywall, and it's very, very lightweight. So it's like squirming and wiggling up the side of your wall. And I'm like, okay, is it going to knock down my photos? And it doesn't, because it's very lightweight. So that's something that is pretty cheap, and I definitely recommend. It's by Hexbots. Another one I'm seeing that is small amount of tech, but it's bringing people a lot of joy, is a Stitch puppet, but inside there's buttons. So it kind of looks like an animatronic kind of puppet that makes sounds and blinks and has its ears move. But, once again, it's like something kind of tangible, bringing something to life through tech. I've also seen 3D printer, this one by 3Doodler. They have a version for kids that's safe because, when you're dealing with plastics that are melted, you're worried about heat and them being burned. But the Start Plus is one that you can do it right on your skin. It doesn't burn you. And if you're a little older, 14 and up, they make one now called the 3Doodler Chef. It melts sugar candy, and you can start eating your doodles. And I just did it this week. You can have fun with decorations. I mean, I looked, it's terrible. I'm not a good artist, but I'm like, at least if it's terrible, I can still eat the mistakes. It's great. But yeah, no, there's a lot of little things in this world. Like, sometimes we're just looking for more gifts for ourselves. There's studies that have been done and reports this year that more adults are buying these silly toy things for themselves. They call it kidult as a trend. So yes, the toys we had as kids are back. I mean, I'm seeing, of course, there's always Ninja Turtles, but I'm talking like Street Sharks and all these other nostalgic things. And there's always still Tamagotchis. So there's a lot of quirky stuff that people are now going to the toy aisles and going, hey, maybe I want to get that for myself. And that's okay. If that's cheaper than therapy and it's working, go for it.
Bridget Carey, our new tech therapist, right with you today. Last question I have. Well, I have two more questions. This has nothing to do with tech. Are you going to have to cover the opening of the new Universal theme park next year? Because you're kind of hinting that you may be covering that in the future.
It has something to do with tech. It does, because these immersive theme parks are getting, there's so much technology to make these special effects now. I mean, we started talking about the Haunted Mansion bar, at the Disney Treasure cruise ship, and how much goes into like creating these ghost and strange melting effects of paintings and stuff. It's all tech. There was ghost little fishes in a fish tank at the Disney bar of the Haunted Mansion bar. But look at what Universal's teasing up that's opening up in 2025 with Epic Universe down in Orlando, Florida. You have what they're calling the most advanced animatronic electronics for their monsters type of ride where like, you have, Frankenstein and everyone kind of coming at you. And so, yeah, like robotics are getting better to look more smooth and more realistic, but also kind of tricking the eye a little bit. There's that Harry Potter ride where like they're calling that the most advanced physical ride that they've done, where you're kind of flying through in an elevator and you have to go in that, I don't know how to describe it. It's like the fireplace that's green. So like you travel through like the fireplaces.
Oh, wow.
When Disney started, with their Star Wars, kind of world and kind of having multiple layers to a ride and making you really feel immersed, like you're on board the starships, and they're using a screen that looks like you're on the battleship and they have like all of space.
All the stormtroopers.
That's one giant Samsung screen, that is like, oh, I'm okay. So by using technology that sometimes we see at the Consumer Electronics Show, in like 2 or 3 years, I start to see it in the theme parks. It's pretty wild.
It sucks that you have to cover that. I feel so bad for you. Covering a theme park opening, oh, that sounds like tough work. If only there were a company that had a place that had like reviews of this stuff and where they could find more Bridget Carey. If such a place existed, Bridget, that would be pretty awesome.
Well, I'm going to help you out. How about CNET.com? I've heard of it.
What, really?
Small little site.
Never heard of them. Right.
Well, thank you for having me on, Joe. It's always fun talking to you every year.
Thank you for mentoring our stackers on tech like every year. And I know you're getting to the busiest part of your year, so hang in there. We'll be following you closely.
Oh, yeah. It's all the buying guides for all sorts of different interests. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of content. And then I will look forward to the break where we just come back and go to the Consumer Electronics Show and do it all again.
Yeah. Big break, right? No chaos at all.
Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and today's the day when we all contemplate all of those things we're grateful for so we can sound intelligent at the table with our relatives tomorrow. Either that or we head for the bar and get blackout drunk because there's just no work in the morning. Am I right? I think I'm right. But because last year I chose option 2, again, I don't know how many times I have to apologize to the neighbors. It won't happen again. This year, I'm going to focus on gratitude. Yes, I'm thankful for not just Bridget Carey and the chunk of money she just took from my wallet for some of those amazing tech toys. I'm also thankful for the smell of pie in the oven. I'm even thankful for Todd down at the Sizzler. But why that guy keeps his job when they're constantly shorting me on the shrimp appetizer is beyond me. But I'm most thankful that there are people out there with so much money to blow that it creates great trivia segments. So on today's date in history, back in 2005, Aerosmith and 50 Cent together played a bat mitzvah so big.
How big
was it?
You kind of missed your mark there. It was so big. It was so big that even
How big was it?
It was so big that
How big was it?
Okay, you really have to stop. Even the challah had a private security detail. Get it? Challah. Okay. Get this. 13-year-old Elizabeth Brooks got to party with Don Henley, Tom Petty, and Stevie Nicks, who I'm sure Brooks' mom and dad had to explain to the girl exactly who all these old people were. And here's the question. On top of this whole star-studded lineup, the whole Benjamin spewing event began with a dark, curly-haired guy wandering around the guests, serenading them on his saxophone. He looked suspiciously like a guy who sold more than 75 million albums worldwide. So, in honor of Friday being a big Benjamin spending day in America, how about this one? Who was that black-haired saxophone player? I'll be back right after I make sure my Instagram profile is up to date in case someone wants to hire me for their first communion. Hey there, stackers. I'm serial entertainer and the guy here who knows all the words to Love Shack, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. boy, oh boy, did Elizabeth Brooks have a party for the ages when Steven Tyler and Joe Perry from Aerosmith teamed up with 50 Cent to headline her bat mitzvah. Kind of reminds me of when OG sang karaoke at my 29th birthday party. No, it'll never happen again. And also, no, you can't see the video. So, how much did Brooks's parents spend on this crazy soiree? Published accounts have this Benjamin spending extravaganza listed at a whopping $10 million. But to prove that they could spend whatever they want, Brooks's parents included a guy serenading guests on his saxophone. And I'm sure you guessed it, the player was the one and only Kenny G. That guy rocks. And now, time for our own musical interlude that I'm sure cost us about 87 cents on some music site as I send it back to Joe and OG.
Big thanks to Bridget Carey. And it looks like, OG, you get to go buy a Switch now.
Yes.
Get to go buy the Nintendo Switch.
Maybe someone will buy it for me. I don't buy my own Christmas presents.
Maybe a man in a red suit could bring it. You could put it on the list. Man in a red suit. Come on.
That and a new frying pan. I mean, I really do have a frying pan on my Christmas list.
A very specific. I thought there was a joke coming, didn't you, Doug?
Yeah.
And a new frying pan.
Like, so I can throw it at Doug.
That's exactly where I thought that was going.
Nope.
How about that?
So actually, it's more of a griddle than it is a frying pan.
You want like a Blackstone flat top thing?
If I must, no, I want one that goes over my my stove so that I can cook pancakes on my stove.
Yeah. Those are like...
Oh, I've done that.
Caroline can afford that. Those are like $11.
Well, still.
Not the one that I want.
Yeah.
Of course not. One guy didn't know that.
The one he wants is made by Four Seasons with a Z. Let's get into our headline.
Hello, darlings. And now it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamin's headlines.
Our headline today comes to us from NASDAQ.com. The Fed keeps cutting rates, so why aren't mortgage rates going down? This is in NASDAQ's personal finance and money section. The Federal Reserve just had a few weeks ago another rate cut, but will it make a difference for antsy home buyers waiting for mortgage rates to drop? Turns out, OG, that it has not really made a difference. Everybody thought that interest rate cuts would equate to maybe mortgage rates much lower, but OG, we haven't seen that with all these fairly aggressive rate cuts that the Fed's been making this fall. What's up? Why aren't mortgage rates falling in line with other rates like credit card rates or auto loan rates?
Well, mainly it's because the Federal Reserve doesn't set mortgage rates. I think everybody thinks that those two things are, lockstep, but they're not necessarily. They influence them by figuring out what banks can lend and borrow money at. And so that kind of helps banks decide where they're at in terms of their profit margins. But the mortgage rate business is partially tied to, what's going on economically, but also, I don't know this on good authority, but I think it has a lot to do with supply and demand. And if banks can charge higher rates and still have all the supply that they want, or all the demand that they want rather, then there can be a little reticence, almost like going the other way on your savings accounts, right? It's like the Fed Reserve comes out and says, hey, by the way, we lowered rates by 0.25%. The next day you get an email from your bank saying your savings account rate has gone down by a requisite amount, right? I got it the next day on my high yield account. I did not also get the same email from my credit card, because they're like, well, we'll just leave it here for a day and see if anybody notices.
Just a couple days.
Just see if anybody notices. Oh, look,
it's just like gas prices. Whenever you see the headline about gas prices quick to go up at the gas pump, slow to come back down when the price of crude oil goes down.
To be fair, on the mortgage rate front, interest rates are still lower than they were this time last year by kind of a full percentage point already. So there is some decline that's happening year over year. It's just not happening, instantaneously like it does in your bank account and as it does in your, generally speaking, your credit card rates.
You go down to the bottom of this piece and, a year ago, we cautioned people on making financial moves because of an election. And this is what it says around the election. The federal deficit also influences Treasury yields because these bonds are used to pay the interest on the debt. The higher the debt, the more yields have to increase to attract investor interest. According to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, President-elect Donald Trump's second term could add anywhere from 1.65 trillion to 15.55 trillion to the deficit over the next 10 years.
Oh, is that all?
1.65 to 15.
Somewhere between nothing and total economic ruin. Got
Which
it.
immediately says, OG, your point exactly. Nobody has any freaking clue. 1.65 trillion to 15.55 trillion. Really? That says right there, we have no idea what's going to happen over the next 4 years. Since the election results were announced, yields on 10-year treasuries jumped from just over 4.25 to almost 4.5. They're rising, quote, because investors expect Trump's proposed fiscal policies to widen the federal deficit and reverse progress on inflation. But then again, OG, nobody knows.
Then again, nobody knows. Yeah, I mean, basically, the beginning and end here with mortgage rates is that they're more closely tied to bond rates than they are to Federal Reserve rates. Reserve rates have to do with banking and how the Fed borrows money. Bond rates are more tied to economic data. And when economic data changes, that's going to change the lending and borrowing associated with the government debt. And then there's that waterfall effect down the line. So stronger economic data, stronger economic rates.
To your point, speculation is playing a role in what's going on with mortgage rates. However, if it ends up being closer to 1.55 trillion than 15.55 trillion,
pray God,
you will see rates come down very, very quickly in the future.
Yeah, you could. If they're forecasting, if they're assuming that, let's just say that they're assuming the midpoint, right? It's like going to be between 1 trillion and 15 trillion. So anything better than 7 is good and anything worse than 7 is bad. Yeah, you would expect to see that kind of ebb and flow with the economic data as it comes in.
Let's talk about the fallout from that, because where we go into economics, because frankly, it's not stuff, stackers, that you can control. Everybody wants to focus on the stuff you can't control. Let's talk about the stuff that you can control. This second headline comes to us from investmentnews.com. And this is the domino that's happening, OG, because interest rates are staying higher than they were, to your point, have come down from the highs, but still higher than people have expected. Homeowners stay put as lower rates offer wealth building and debt consolidation. This is written by Steve Randall. Steve writes, many American homeowners who bought a house with a fixed rate before the spike in 2022 may opt to take advantage of their home's growing value as the housing market rebounds. But that doesn't mean selling up and moving on, because with tight supply set to be exacerbated as demand grows, the potential increase in price is seen as a great opportunity for building wealth and increasing financial security. It turns out, OG, that a lot of people staying at home, not moving. And what Steve's writing about is there's actually an upside to that, meaning that A, we're not paying all these costs, which we have when we change houses. Mm-hmm. We're not running to the Home Depot as much. We can actually, because we're staying put, focus more on our debt, our bills, maybe even do a cash out refi to get some money to pay off those credit cards. Of course, that doesn't solve the main problem, but it's interesting. People not moving because they have these low interest rates on their house.
One of the seminal pieces on personal finance came from Robert Kiyosaki many years ago, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I'm sure both of you guys have read that. Probably 80% of our stackers at least know what it is. And one of the things he talks about in that book is that his poor dad was the one that every time he got a pay raise would buy a bigger house. And I think what Stephen's talking about here is people are not doing that because they go, well, this is beyond foolish, right? I've got my mortgage at 2.75. Why in the heck would I go buy the house across the street? That's a little bit bigger, but it's on the golf course and it has a pool. That's nice and all, but is it nice and all worth 6% interest? Right. No, it is not. So therefore, I'm staying put. And I think the point he's making here is, it's a de facto good financial decision because you can't bring yourself to make the bad one.
I love this
despite
idea,
your efforts
though,
to do it every time.
We've seen this before, right? 401k switch over to opt in. We're too lazy to opt out. Mm-hmm. So we get opted in automatically. Hey, look at my 401k is actually growing because I have these investments that I didn't choose. The company chose them. Can I do better? Yes. However, I'm doing better than I would have done because I can still be lazy and make some money. We're seeing the same thing now with houses. We're too lazy to do
I don't know if lazy is the right. I think the juice isn't worth the squeeze so far on the opposite side, because given the opportunity to move, if you wanted to move and you said, well, this, I'm at 2.5 and then the rate would be 3.5. It's not that big of a deal. It's 4.25. It might not be that big, but then you get to like 6.3 and you're going, wait a second. This is
right.
This is
okay.
This is beyond stupid. And even I can't justify, and I'm a really bad financial decision maker. Does that make sense? Did I say that right? Really good, bad financial decision maker.
Bad.
I can justify a lot of stuff when it comes to consumption. Expert at that. Even I can't make it make sense to get the house across the street that's for sale, but it's
if lazy's
it's
wrong, I don't want to be right.
Yeah.
Well, and Doug, to the point, I think I misspoke. I meant being lazy here's the right thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Music to my ears.
Yeah. I get to do nothing and I have more money because
everybody
I
has
do
their
nothing.
time in the sun, Doug.
Yes, please.
It is my moment.
I was talking to some friends a couple of weeks ago about this. I've said this many times. When interest rates were low, we refinanced our house to 2.5, a 15-year term. And everybody said, what are you doing? Do 2.5 for 30. And I said, I just want to pay my house off. And I was talking to some friends over a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about financial goals. And one of the things that I mentioned was that we were really aggressively paying off our house. And one of the guys looked at me and goes, oh, what's the interest rate? I said, it's like 2.5. He says, oh, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
And you're a financial planner.
Well, he was too. The thing is that it's not about like dollars and cents when it comes to this stuff. It's like personal satisfaction and utilization. My mortgage payment's a lot, and not having to have that mortgage payment means that I have to work. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go me. But I win. My mortgage payment's more than yours.
My mortgage payment's more than your income.
But it takes a lot of stress off the cash flow, financial independence. If you don't have to have that income associated with that payment, right? It's like, it's an interesting domino effect of, if I don't have this payment that's X dollars a month, X dollars per year, after tax, or before tax, I have to make this amount of money just to afford this payment. Talk about like the stress level going down. I got 2 kids going to college here pretty quick. Like, I can allocate those resources to a whole bunch of different things. I think it's a great example of, there's no necessarily right answer for any one financial problem. If you've got a high interest rate, you may be looking at it going, oh my gosh, I should pay this off. But maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you have other financial priorities that are more important to you than aggressively paying off your house. Just like we have a low rate and are still aggressively paying off our house, even though the math might say, well, shouldn't you just invest it? The difference? It's like, well, no, because I want the freaking mortgage payment gone. I wouldn't stress about it. I wouldn't go shopping for a brand new house if you had a serviceable home now. But if you need to make a decision and move your family for whatever reason, then you just make it work, figure out a way to make it happen.
If I could free up 36 grand a month to not pay to my mortgage, I would do the same thing.
Exactly, right? That's what I'm saying.
This whole discussion proves that it's not always about the math, though, because the math on paying off your mortgage when the interest rate's at 2.5% is horrible. But when you get to the point that this can free up mind share, that's a big thing. Oh, gee, you had the story earlier about, hey, 2 kids in college, juggling. Even without that, Wes Moss, in his book, What the Happiest Retirees Know, talked about happiest retirees pay off their mortgage.
Yep.
You know why? Because they don't want to deal with the mind share.
One less thing to worry about. There's no right or wrong way to do your financial plan. Some people invest aggressively. Some people invest a little more conservatively. Some people invest in real estate. Some people invest in stocks. There's no single way to be financially independent, just like there's no single way to the best way to pay off your debt. It's what's best for you in the moment based on the circumstances that you have. For us, we're paying our house off.
Yeah, I'm sure that we have a lot of listeners right now who would sleep better at night knowing that they're getting the 8% average over the 2.5% loan rate, right? Like, that math works. And if that's what gets you to sleep at night, do that. But there's others of us. I did the same thing that OG's talking about, where I chose to pay off the house because we were so close. And I thought, man, it's going to feel awfully nice to not have to think about that again.
I think the key for all of us is to get to the point where the math doesn't matter as much as the mind share. If you're close, you probably got to go with the math. But if you're not close, man, go with freeing up the mind share, so where you don't have to worry about it. We will dive more into interest rates, how they work. If you want some of the best curated spots for all of this discussion on the interwebs, head to stackingbenjamins.com/201. That's our 201 newsletter, which, man, if there were awards for newsletters, I'm sure that would win one. I'm not aware. I'm sure there's some awards for newsletters somewhere, but we've never made ourselves known. But if there is,
Let's start them.
that'd be great.
Let's
do it.
Could be the first recipient.
The Stacky Benjamins Award goes to the Stacky Benjamins newsletter. Wow, it's weird. Kevin Bailey does a great job there. StackyBenjamins.com/201, and we'll continue that discussion in more depth on a 201 style over there tomorrow. Before we say goodbye today, we got to do our TikTok Minute, guys. Time for the TikTok Minute, the segment where we shine a light on a TikTok creator who's either doing something brilliant or air quotes brilliant. And we were talking about saving money, right? I mean, saving money by staying at home, the Doug way, the easy way, pressing the easy button. What's another way to press the easy button and save some money? We've all been in this person's shoes. Well, this is just some great advice and a great way to save money when you're out traveling.
So tell me, what is the best advice all of you have been given?
If you're ever traveling and you have lost your phone charger, just go to any hotel and walk in and tell them you just checked out and you left your charger. And they'll hand you a big box full of chargers that people have left, and you just pull a new one out and go on your way.
That's such good advice.
It doesn't work.
What do you mean it doesn't work?
I tried that with you. We were traveling. We slept in separate bedrooms, people.
No,
Relax.
come on. Small spoon. Keep talking, small
When
spoon.
you and I were on the book tour, and we were in a hotel, I think in Grand Rapids, and I didn't have a cable, I went to the desk and said, hey, last time I was here, I forgot my cable. And the guy's like, yeah, sorry, we can't do that. I can't show you the box. I'm like, but I lost my cable. He's like, yeah, nope, I'm not falling for it. I was annoyed.
Wow.
So I've tried it. Didn't work.
Well, doesn't mean you can't try. Turns out that when you stay at a high-end chain like we did, the Holiday Inn Express, Doug, it doesn't work. But maybe the La Quinta will let you get away with it.
La Quinta. Maybe. Yeah, you weren't funding the high-end Four Seasons, but...
you know what La Quinta means?
By the airport?
Next to Denny's.
Next to Denny's. Yeah.
Time to venture just briefly out onto the back porch because we have sold more than half the tickets, New York City, for our meetup with Paula Pant, Doc G, and OG is going to be there as well. Special guest Julian Johnsrud is going to be there. I think comedian Paul Ollinger is going to join us. So we've got a star-studded lineup, but we only have 85 tickets available, and they are half gone. So if you want to be at the big party on December 12th, we're going to be kicking off Doc G's new book. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about behind the scenes, the making of the Stacking Benjamin show, the making of the Afford Anything show, the making of Earn and Invest. Should be a great night. A lot of fun.
It's going to be weird to be talking about all of those shows without having like the keystone player.
Well, come on, Doug.
Of all of those shows.
Come
there.
on.
You're welcome to come, sir.
Yes.
Doc G seems to have forgotten funding that trip for me.
I think he forgot it for us too.
Egregious oversight.
So, holy cow, by the way, I went to get a hotel from the Marriott chain in Manhattan, the cheapest hotel, over $700.
Yeah.
So I will be staying in Brooklyn, fabulous Brooklyn, just across the bridge at well, I won't say where I am because I don't want the paparazzi out there.
Yeah.
Yes. And I don't want anybody to go tell the phone charger guy not to show me the phone charger box of goodies. Now that we know that they might be onto that, but it's stackingbenjamins.com/NYC to sign up. Get it before the tickets are gone. stackingbenjamins.com/NYC. We'd love to see you there. And tickets, since we started talking about this last week, have gone quickly. We had this time last week, maybe 7 tickets gone because we just barely mentioned it. But once we started talking about it, they're going fast. So don't be left out in the cold. All right. That is the back porch for today. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving, OG.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving, Doug. And go Lions. Go Detroit Lions. We actually might have a shot of seeing our Lions actually win on a Thanksgiving day.
On Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm most thankful for Dan Campbell, the coach of the Lions, right?
They're having a season.
For turning that around.
They're having a year.
Doug, what should we have learned from today's show?
Well, Joe, first, take some advice from Bridget Carey. Just because some tech deals look great at the store, maybe pull out your phone, pull up CNET, and do some real research first. Your wallet will thank you. Second, mortgage rates haven't come down, but that doesn't mean there aren't ways for you to use that to clean up your financial house. Time to get busy on that debt and budget. But the big lesson? Don't show Joe's mom Bridget's tech deals segment. Last year, she bought the world's biggest TV, and now I don't feel like I'm watching Wheel of Fortune. Heck, I feel like I'm living in it. I'll buy a vowel, Joe. Thanks to Bridget Carey for joining us. You can find her stories and reviews on CNET, and we'll also include links to her insightful and often hilarious social media accounts. She's fun to follow, and you'll save money making sure you're not stepping in it with your tech dollars. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2024, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Joe gets help from a few of our neighborhood friends. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. Oh yeah, and before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show.
I mentioned ahead of time, I'm thankful for Dan Campbell. Oh, gee, what are you thankful for this Thanksgiving season?
I fucking hate this.
I know. Thanks for going to him first, because I don't know what I'm going to say either.
We got to practice. Like you said earlier, Doug, we got to practice. Because tomorrow around our table, we always do this thing.
I make my kids do it.
And you don't? Oh my God.
That's great.
Come on, you little sons of what are you grateful for?
You better say me this year.
Yes. Better be compelling.
I'm thankful for both of you. We'll let you off the hook.
Oh, God dang it. That was going to be mine.
Sorry.
That was so obligatory, too.
It was.
You handed it back. You handed it back.
It's more of a fumble, but
let's talk about a movie that I went and saw that I know is going to be at theaters around the country this weekend. This is a little movie about the Catholic Church called Conclave.
The Pope is dead. The throne is vacant.
What happened? They say a heart attack.
You know how rumor spreads, and 1.25 billion souls watching.
Well thought, no, Lawrence. It seems the responsibility for the conclave falls upon you. The supervision of this election. This is a duty I never thought I'd have to perform. They are sequestered, and they must be shielded from all news that may influence their judgment. You understand? No sane man would want the papacy. The men who are dangerous are the ones who do want it.
The men who are dangerous are the ones who will want it. So Cheryl and I went and saw this last week. When it finally showed up in theaters, I think I said on a show last week it hadn't shown up yet. Well, thank goodness the next week it did. We immediately got to theater to see it. I know I said last week that We Live in Time was my favorite movie of the year. Well, that's already been upended a week later because Conclave is my favorite movie of the year.
This looks like a really cool movie.
Way to stick to your guns, Joe.
I know that's right. Yes. Well, you get new information. You see another movie. So in a year that finally Hollywood might be getting it together. Ralph Fiennes. Let's talk about these people. Ralph Fiennes.
Can we talk
amazing.
about how to say his name? Because I'm pretty sure the right way to say his name, which is ridiculous, is Rafe. Fine.
Rafe Fiennes.
That's just stupid.
I don't know. I'm going to call him Ralph because there's an L in there.
I know.
So,
I know.
yeah. So, Stanley Tucci is in this.
That
Hey,
dude's
there's
amazing.
a C, so it must be Stanley Tucci. Also amazing. John Lithgow. Amazing. Like you put those three guys in any movie and then throw in Isabella Rossellini, who has been in 5 million movies that are awesome as well. They all bring it, and the script is great. I can't tell you guys anything about the movie because this is you don't know what's going to happen next movie, and it twists and turns for 2 hours. It's almost exactly 2 hours long. It twists and turns all the way through it, and you get to the end, you're like, I didn't see that coming.
Well, now I'm going to.
Is it one of those movies where you're confused? Like, wait, who's that character? And did we just
Not
go
at
back
all.
in time? Any of that? Because
No.
that's sometimes tough to stay with.
Well, that was, in We Live in Time, it did that. It jumped around from the beginning of when they met each other to she's got cancer to someplace. And there was some confusion going on, Doug, all the way through. I'm like, where are they at now? What's going on? Very quickly, they brought you back. Like I wasn't confused for very long, but I know what type of movie you're talking about. This is a straight narrative. It begins at the beginning. The Pope is dead. It ends with them choosing a new Pope. And it's all about that process. That is pretty much all I can tell you because the process of choosing the Pope is where all the goodness in this movie lies. And the twists, the turns, the stuff that happens outside that room, inside that room, man, just 2 hours well spent.
Sounds like a cool movie. I saw the previews for that.
That's good. Now, OG, what do you think about Hollywood? I know you've seen Wicked maybe, I think 136 times.
Uh-huh.
And what do you think about that coming to the theater?
Well, I mean, I can't imagine it's going to be any better than a live show. So
it never is.
My interest level is pretty low.
Yeah, it never is.
You might be able to actually understand the dialogue and the lyrics to understand the plot in a movie versus on stage.
I know what happened on stage.
I think on Wicked, it's pretty easy to understand what's going on.
We went in Detroit with some friends, and all four of us came out of there not understanding half of. We couldn't hear the.
Oh my God.
Maybe it was the
Wicked
acoustics.
was probably the coolest story that I've ever seen told.
Wow.
That's a big statement.
Yeah. I think it just ties in. It just changes the perspective altogether because we all grew up watching Wizard of Oz whenever the hell it was on TV, like Easter weekend or something. Like it was always on that week, I think, or something. And it was The Wicked Witch of the West and Dorothy, good versus evil. That's the story, right? And then this just goes, we're going to give you like right before that. And you go, oh, she wasn't evil. Like they said, evil was thrust upon her. So did she become evil or was she born with it? It's like this. It's like it just moves it just a little bit. It also kind of changes the whole Dorothy bit a little bit because, you feel like you know how that ends and then maybe it doesn't. I just thought it was a pretty cool way to explain the years leading up to Dorothy shows up and what that was all about.
Well, now you've just made me want to go see this movie because I got none of that from when I saw the stage production in Detroit. Nothing.
Did you go to the same thing?
I know none of us could understand.
Did you go to
any of the
Spanish
dialogue
version? I mean, it was pretty clear what was going on. I mean, I think even the Spanish version I'd figure out.
I saw it in Dallas with OG, which he clearly remembers seeing it with us.
I do now because you brought it up a number of times. And I'm like, I just have to remember that I remembered it.
But you want to know why, Doug, I remember it? Because afterwards we went to a Mexican food place and OG's son really didn't want to eat anything. And then we got a call from Mrs. OG the next day saying, Will had COVID. So, and we got to sit right across from him sharing guacamole and all the good stuff.
Well, he doesn't eat guacamole, so you wouldn't have shared any of that.
Well, whatever.
Or chips.
But it was...
Sorry about that.
It was very memorable. No, you didn't.
On the struggle bus. Yeah, I think you should watch it again. If you didn't get the whole, this changes the narrative of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz to...
Yeah, you must have seen a bad version of it.
Or Maybe the acoustics in the Detroit Opera House are not that great, but I'm telling you,
the Detroit Opera House.
I'm telling you, all four of us came out of there feeling like we got about 30% at most of the storyline.
Wow.
Huh. Yeah. I really like Wicked quite a bit, actually. I would almost go see that. Although I did hear, speaking of plays and operas, I did hear they're relaunching the tour of Phantom of the Opera. They haven't, hasn't been touring in a really long time.
It has been a
you just kind of feel like it's always somewhere. So you're like, well, I'll catch it next time it's in town.
Like Cats.
But I guess it's been gone off the tour for quite a while, and they're bringing it back. So hit that again when it shows up.
All right, we got some stretching out to do, gentlemen. We got to get ready for Thanksgiving dinner.
It's pie time.
Maybe
you don't like my headphones?
Lighting package. I'm just saying, there's always the new thing. What's the hot thing?
Chemical peel?
Tanning bed?
Facelift? Dermabrasion?
No.
Oh, I thought that was the scene. Sorry. I thought that was and we roll into commercials from there or something.
No, I asked you what's on your list.
Well, you guys were making fun of it, so I figured that was part of the shtick that I was not aware of. All right, 3, 2, 1.
I got a tech thing on my list. If you
shut the up. He asked me. 3, 2, 1.
We have to use that.